A band at the height of their rock glory, their shows legendary and their songs electrified millions. Van Halen, a band whose name came to represent success, was at the center of it all. However, the story was far from amicable behind the scenes. Alex Van Halen has finally spoken out today, expressing his long-suppressed emotions on Michael Anthony, the bassist whose position in the band was fraught with difficulties and controversy. Togetherness and the same goal marked the beginning of Van Halen's journey. A major contributor to the band's distinctive sound was Michael Anthony, who provided soaring backing vocals and consistent bass lines. His bass lines served as the backdrop for Alex's booming drumming and Eddie Van Halen's guitar prowess, while his harmonies gave depth to songs like Running with the Devil in Panama. However, the band's ties began to deteriorate as their notoriety increased. Known for his strict methods and unwavering work ethic, Alex Van Halen often clashed with Anthony's more relaxed demeanor. Alex was annoyed by what he saw as a lack of commitment to the band's purpose, while Anthony relished the benefits of rock celebrity. For Anthony, music was a sacred art form, according to Alex. It frequently resembled a party. Creative tensions started to surface as the 1980s went on. The band's main creative drivers, Alex and Eddie Van Halen, believed Anthony wasn't doing enough to help write the songs. The brothers constantly adjusted every note and rhythm because they were perfectionists. There were times during recording sessions when their compulsive drive and Anthony's more laid-back style clashed, resulting in annoyance and even outright animosity. Imagine this scene from Long Nights in the Studio, where Anthony seemed happy to just follow the beat while Alex painstakingly refined drum sounds. This lack of involvement, in Alex's opinion, betrayed the band's values. At first, the animosity developed subtly, but with time, it became more difficult to ignore. The dynamics of Van Halen changed even more in 1985 when Sammy Hagar took David Lee Roth's place as the band's lead singer. Anthony and Hagar grew close and even put up a unified front against the Van Halen brothers. This widened the gap for Alex. Alex and Eddie's more focused approach contrasted sharply with Hagar and Anthony's companionship, which was full of laughs and shared pleasures. Alex felt more and more cut off from the bassist who had once been his ally, creating a sense of us versus them. The Van Halen brothers' contentious choice to substitute Wolfgang Van Halen, Eddie's teenage son, for Michael Anthony in 2006 was the last straw. For Alex, taking back control of the band's direction was more than just a family decision. Fans were shocked by the decision, and many criticized the brothers for excluding Anthony, whose backing vocals had gained the same level of notoriety as the band's guitar solos. For Alex, however, the choice was appropriate. Alex saw Anthony as replaceable due to his alignment with Hagar and lack of participation in the band's creative process. But for Anthony, it was a very personal rejection that destroyed any lingering friendship he had with the Van Halen siblings. Relationships with the Van Halen brothers weren't the only thing Anthony struggled with. Although consoling, his friendship with Sammy Hagar has its share of difficulties. Critics frequently compared the two musicians' cooperative endeavors, such as the band Chickenfoot, to Van Halen, raising doubts about whether Anthony was just following Hagar's lead. The idea that Anthony's greatest years were over was reinforced by these hurtful remarks. The media and fans also criticized Anthony for his ostensibly small contribution to Van Halen's creative process. Many questioned his contributions to the band's songwriting, despite the fact that his live performances were appreciated. This served as a stinging reminder to Anthony of the contemptuous attitude he had encountered in the band, where the Van Halen brothers' exaggerated personas frequently overshadowed his skills. Outside of the stage, Michael Anthony's life depicted a man enmeshed in a maelstrom of expectations, demands, and sacrifices. Although thrilling, fame had a high cost, and for Anthony, that cost was mostly borne at home. He and his family became estranged due to the never-ending touring schedule, late-night performances, and hedonistic lifestyle that comes with being a rock star. Imagine a man caught between two different worlds, the rock star's expected life of turmoil and pleasure, and the loving parent and husband's need for stability. The stress of leading two separate lives became evident, and Anthony frequently struggled with guilt over missing important family times while balancing Van Halen's relentless demands. Anthony saw the spotlight as a mirror reflecting both his strengths and weaknesses, not simply his musical prowess. Quick to immortalize Eddie and Alex Van Halen's theatrical personas, the media frequently ignored Anthony and portrayed him as only a supporting actor. His friendly, laid-back demeanor, which won him admirers, was misrepresented by critics as a sign of complacency. He was viewed as the dependable bassist who kept the beat together without creating a stir, rather than as a flaming virtuoso or an aspirational mastermind behind Van Halen's success. Think about being called the weakest member of a band that was the pinnacle of musical revolt and creativity. Anthony was confined to this stereotype in spite of his indisputable accomplishments. His soaring harmonies, which formed a pillar of Van Halen's sound, were sometimes overlooked by critics who examined his role in the band with surgical precision. Not only did his bass lines provide the foundation for the song, but his voice also enhanced the band's melodies. However, the pyrotechnics of Eddie's guitar and the thunder of Alex's drumming often overwhelmed his contribution. However, Anthony's battles with public opinion continued after he left Van Halen. The specter of those previous critiques persisted even as he embarked on a prosperous career after Van Halen. Fans and the media frequently questioned whether Anthony's subsequent triumphs were genuinely his own or merely a continuation of Van Halen's legacy because of the shadow cast by his former comrades. Whispers of doubt and the residual pain of being underappreciated marred the praise he got, making it bittersweet. The burden of these impressions was carried by Anthony behind his signature smile and easygoing charm. Despite his seemingly upbeat exterior, the pain of being undervalued as a person and as a musician was a wound that never completely went away. His path was one of quiet fortitude, negotiating the challenges of family and celebrity while continuously trying to establish his value in a society that was quick to criticize and reluctant to recognize him. When Alex Van Halen looks back on his time with Michael Anthony, he sees a picture of a partnership characterized by both personal strife and artistic synchronicity. Anthony's strong bass lines and soaring harmonies were essential to the Van Halen sound, which served as the cornerstone of the band's quick ascent to stardom. But for Alex, their contributions cannot be separated from the underlying frustration. Musical disagreements were only one aspect of the friction. There was also a deeper conflict between execution and expectations, between what may have been and what frequently fell short. Consider the pressure of playing in a band that expected nothing less than excellence, where every note was carefully considered and every mistake could ruin years of arduous practice. Regarding Alex, the difficulties of working with Anthony served as a continual reminder of the costs incurred in order to maintain Van Halen's position as the best band in rock. Alex's unwavering desire for accuracy and perfection frequently clashed with Anthony's laid-back demeanor, which was a comfort during stressful situations. What started out as a common goal of excellence became a point of contention, revealing the dynamic's fault lines. The legacy that Michael Anthony leaves behind is similarly complex. Although his journey is a complicated one of achievement tinged with conflict, fans adore him for his quiet charm and indisputable artistic talents. Although his harmonies came to define Van Halen's sound, the reality behind the scenes revealed a different tale of conflicts, marginalization, and times when he felt like his contribution to the band was undervalued. Anthony had to negotiate the tumultuous dynamics of a band dominated by powerful individuals and uncompromising ambition due to his personal as well as professional challenges inside Van Halen. Despite being praised, Anthony's legacy is laced with the melancholy reality that being a rock and roll legend comes at a price, not only in terms of success but also in terms of the emotional toll it takes. His story serves as a warning about the thin line that separates friendship from rivalry and the sacrifices made in the unrelenting quest for fame. As Van Halen's incredible career comes to an end, Anthony's tale serves as a reminder of tenacity. It is the story of a guy who persevered in his devotion to the music and the people who supported it in the face of obstacles and setbacks. Like the band itself, he left behind a legacy of paradoxes, with high points punctuated by tense moments and indisputable accomplishments weighed against the human costs of pursuing the rock and roll dream.